Welcome into the Ashes to Awakening podcast with your host, Christian Huskins. I'm super excited to have you here today. But before we go into today's episode, I just want to pause and bring an announcement forward. And that is, I am now accepting applications for my one-on-one coaching program. If you have been someone that's done the work, you've listened to all these podcasts, you've done the journaling, you've gone to therapy, you've read every book, trying to manifest, and still you feel stuck. Maybe you keep ending up in the same relationships, different people, different names. Yet the energy, the behaviors, and the patterns are all the same, even though you swore next time would be different. Maybe you know exactly why you do what you do, yet you have the inability to insert the pause, to change the behavior. Maybe you're exhausted from being the strong one, the fixer, the one who holds it all together for everyone else, pouring into everybody while no one is pouring into you. And you're certainly not taking the time to pour into yourself. All the while, feeling like you're falling apart silently on the inside. Maybe you've shrunk down who you are so many times to keep the peace, to be accepted, that when you look in the mirror, you don't even know who you are anymore. I want you to know that I hear you, I see you, and I understand you. So what if one day you could just stop? You could just sit still and look at the ashes at your feet. The relationships that burned, the versions of you that you had to let go of, the pain that you swallowed to survive. And you realize something in that moment, that those ashes are not your ending. They are your beginning. Not just surviving what happened to you, but rising from it. And that is what I mean by Ashes to Awakening. I built this specifically for you. So applications are now open for my Elite Emotional Freedom Platinum Coaching Program. If something that I said today made your chest tighten, that is not coincidence, it's awareness. The link to apply is in the show notes. Say yes to yourself today. You are worth it. Now let's get to today's episode. Welcome to Ashes to Awakening podcast with your host, Christian Huskins. I am so glad to have you here with me today. This is my first episode, so I'm really happy to have you here. But before we go into anything, I really just want to ground our nervous system. Okay? So I want you to take a deep breath in. And exhale gently. But let it all out. Taking another deep breath in. And exhaling. Very good. If you have found your way to me, it is not on accident. It's purpose. Okay? If you find yourself repeating the same types of relationships over and over again, maybe you attract the same type of behaviors in people. Maybe you struggle with boundaries, people pleasing. Maybe you have an anxious attachment style. And if any of that is true, you are in the right place. So grab a piece of paper, pencil, pen, because I'm going to have you do some reflection at the end of this. And take what you're hearing into life. So go ahead and grab that. So as I said today, guys, this is my first episode. So my name is Christian Huskins. And most people know me as Coach Christian. I am a relationship and behavior expert. I'm a transformational coach, an author, a mom of 6, a grandma of 3, a wife, and the founder of my Elite Emotional Freedom ecosystem. My work really focuses on helping people understand so that they have awareness, but also to heal those underlying patterns that are driving your relationship behaviors so that they can finally break free of those cycles. They can heal the generational wounds. And I mean, if you've got culture on top of that, that's culturally generational wounds, okay? It's rough. But also how to help them step into healthy connections, healthy relationships with other people. But starting with the first one, which is the one with themselves. Okay? What makes my approach different is I just don't talk about it. We don't talk about your story over and over again. I always tell my clients, I don't care about your story. And it's not that I don't care about what happened to you, because I do. What I'm saying is I am not going to put the energy into the story because we are now using the story to empower you. And when we continue to talk about the story and stay stuck in it, we remain a victim in our story. Okay? So my work is subconscious healing, nervous system regulation, emotional regulation. I go to the root. What is causing all of these behaviors? What is causing you to attract certain people? Okay? And to be able to heal the source of the behavior, not just manage the symptoms. So that's a lot about what my work does. And I think it starts with awareness. We can't change what we're not in awareness of. But I promise you, once you become aware of it, you never can unsee it. Okay? So, a little bit about me and why I do this work. And not the polished version, guys. This is raw, okay? A raw, real, vulnerable. I expect my clients to be vulnerable with me, so I'm going to be vulnerable with you. So if I sneeze, cough, mess up a word, I'm not going to re-record this. This is what you're getting, okay? You're always going to have the raw Christian. So I grew up in an environment that wasn't technically emotionally safe. Love was very conditional. I had to perform in order to feel worthy or to be seen or accepted. Many times I shrunk myself to make other people feel comfortable. Whatever my parents wanted, that's what I did. Whoever they wanted me to date, that's who I dated. Where they wanted me to work, that's where I worked. I learned really quick, at a very young age, to scan the room and to show up how the room needed me to show up. And that was really hard because all of those behaviors then went into my adult relationships. And I'm not talking just, partner relationships. I'm talking friendships, coworkers, every relationship, especially the one with myself. But I was attracting what felt familiar. Not because I was broken, but because my subconscious was doing exactly what it was programmed to do. Okay? So I was out here seeking what felt like home, even though home was painful. I grew up in chaos. And so for me to exist in silence, it did not work for me. I would self-sabotage. I would ruin things because I had to bring the chaos in because that's what I felt familiar with. Okay? Our parents model what love looks like. So it's not uncommon for you to find yourself attracting individuals like what showed up in your childhood with your parents. Okay? So I remember a season in my life that I don't think I will ever forget. I would say there's two seasons that I will never forget. And I have 2 biological children, and I've got 4 stepchildren, my bonus kids. And so with my 2 biological children, my oldest, I always told him this one sentence, and it must have stuck with him. So in this season that I want to talk about, for my kids, I had to show up and be strong, be put together, be resilient, never ever show my weakness. And that was not what I was supposed to be doing, but now that's how I showed up. But it was in those quiet moments after the kids went to sleep that I would lose it. And there was one particular night that I was coming unraveled. I was emotionally distraught. I was stressed out. It was like everything wasn't working right. And this is before my healing journey, way before. And I remember sitting in the bathroom. I was sitting on the cold tile floor. And, I put my head, my face in my hands, and I was crying. And shortly after that, well, I'm not a pretty crier anyways, so I believe that my oldest heard me crying, and he came into the bathroom, and he sat down next to me, and he wrapped his arms around me. And he said something to me, something I will never, ever, ever forget, and said, "Mama, nothing is too big. I know it just feels that way right now, but I'm always in your corner." My own child handed me back my own words in my darkest moments. And he still, to this day, will say that. So that was really the turning point for me. I realized I could not heal what I was not willing to face. I couldn't break the cycles if I refused to name them, right? I couldn't teach my children emotional regulation if I was emotionally imprisoned. I couldn't process emotions if I refused to feel them. Okay? And so I had been in talk therapy for 17 years. Again, diagnosed with an anxiety disorder at a very young age. Put, on daily medication and then a rescue medication. So between copays and the medication, over 17 years, I spent close to $50,000. $50,000 with zero change. I had the awareness. I had the coping mechanisms that my coach gave me, or that my therapist gave me, And they worked until I was triggered. I had the awareness to say, okay, so when I get frustrated, I need to insert the pause. I need to go get my coping mechanisms. And that worked when my nervous system was not in survival mode. But the moment I was triggered about something, my nervous system went haywire. And now there's no room to insert the pause. Okay? So the talk therapy, and talk therapy is needed. I think it's very required. It goes wonderful hand in hand with what I do. But it will just keep you sometimes stuck in your story. And when they give you a coping mechanism or something to do, if you go straight into survival mode and you can't do what they're asking you to do, when you go back, you're like, I couldn't do it. And now you feel less than, not worthy of. See, I told you I couldn't heal, right? I went through this. So talk therapy is an amazing modality when it comes to just helping you process and understand. But that deeper rooted healing came when I found my coach and hypnotherapist. And after 12 sessions, I did one session a week for 12 weeks. I was on the other side of healing. Now, it's a daily thing. I always tell my clients that you're not going to poop rainbows and fart glitter after you have, 12 sessions with me or what have you. You are just now going to be able to handle life because life is still going to happen. Hard times are still going to happen. But now you have the ability to put the pause in. And what I found on the other side of this work was freedom. Again, not a perfect life, not the absence of hard times and moments, but a beautiful, healthy relationship with myself. I had the ability to pause, to choose different, the clarity to see a pattern before I stepped back and into it. I could say, I see what you're doing here, Christian. And the capacity to love without losing myself in the process. Okay, how many of you are in a relationship and it's like you look at yourself in the mirror and you don't even recognize who you are anymore? Because you have formed yourself to exactly what you need to be in that relationship. So many people lose themselves in relationships. And that is really what I want for you. Okay, so that is what this podcast was built for, and hoping to find the people that need to hear this. Okay, so I want to be a little clear about what Ashes to Awakening is and who it's for. So if you're a person that gives everything in relationships, you pour into everybody, not just a partner, but I'm talking friends, everything you do, you pour yourself into it. And you still feel empty. Because the reality is, if you're filling somebody else up, they should be filling you up at the same time. Have you ever been around somebody that is just an energy vampire and sucks the energy dry, and when you leave, you're like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. And then you have other people, energy angels, if you will. And when you're around their presence, when you leave, you feel alive. You feel fulfilled. You feel light. That is the difference between being in a presence of someone who's healthy and who's not. Okay, and there's a lot of energy vampires out there. So if you're one that gives everything in relationships and you still feel empty, this podcast is for you. If you're a man who was told your whole life that strength means silence, you put your shoulders back, we don't feel emotion, we're not allowed to talk about our feelings. That's probably 90% of men, unfortunately. But if you are a man that experienced this and you feel exhausted from carrying all these things alone, this podcast is for you. If you're a woman who has done all the things, right? You've done all the things, but yet you still find yourself choosing people who cannot fully show up for yourself. Okay? So you're finding people and choosing people who cannot fully show up for you because you have a hard time showing up for yourself. This podcast is for you. And it's for anyone who grew up in a home where love felt unpredictable. Maybe there's a lot of anxiety, emotional abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. That's all domestic violence, guys. Okay? Maybe where you grew up in an environment where you learned to read the room before you learned to read a book. It's funny now that I sit back and I can see it. If I'm out somewhere, I can see somebody walk into a room and I see them reading it. It's very interesting when you see that from a different point of view, right? Maybe in your childhood, you had an environment where you had to be the peacemaker, the adult. Maybe you were the caretaker. Maybe you were just the invisible one. No one saw you, right? Maybe you were the one that was just too much. You got told all the time, gosh, you're just so much. Or on the flip side of that, maybe no matter what you did, you were never good enough. You got a 89% on your test. Great job. But why couldn't you have gotten an A? Not feeling good enough. Okay? And it's funny that if you were it's not really funny, but if you were the invisible one as a child, check into the relationships that you have now. Are you like fully seen? Are you uncomfortable if someone fully sees you? Okay? That tends to turn into an avoidant attachment style. And you probably have a hard time being in relationships with someone who puts you first. Because with them, you're put on a pedestal and you are seen. Fully seen. Bare. Raw. Okay? So I want to explain kind of in an analogy what it is the work that I do. Okay? So imagine yourself as a tree. Your feet are on the ground, and in the ground from your feet are your roots. Okay? Your body is the trunk of the tree. Your arms and your arms and your fingers are all the leaves and the branches. And hanging from those leaves and branches are cherries. And, you can pick the cherries. You can cut the leaves and branches. You can even cut the trunk in half. But if you don't take out the root, it's just going to grow back. If you don't water the soil around the base of the trunk in the ground, when you go to take the roots out, they may splinter off. So the work that I do is not only do we pick the cherries, cut the leaves and branches, but I take out the root, or we heal. If the root needs to stay in there for a purpose, then we heal that root so that it's healthy. So many people are afraid because I don't want to heal, Christian, because I got to relive my childhood. I got to relive my trauma. What if there's something in there that I don't want to remember? I can promise you this is the least invasive healing modality you will find. We water the root. So when it's time to take the root out, it comes out very easily. Okay? Until you go down to the root and do the real work, the branches, the leaves, and the cherries will always keep growing back. And that is the work that, I work with my clients with, and the work that we're going to be doing together. We're going to water the foundation so that we can access the root a lot easier. Okay? We're going to start on these podcasts, on my episodes, we're going to start from the very beginning. We're going to work through why we became who we became. Because before you can change anything, you have to have awareness of it. From there, we're going to go into some of the childhood programming and the subconscious programming. Because most of what is driving your behavior right now was installed and programmed before the age of 7 years old. And I know that sounds really extreme. Just stay with me, okay? The light bulb will go off. We're going to dig into some attachment styles because the way you learned to attach as a child is the exact blueprint that you're using in every relationship that you have today. If you have an anxious attachment style with your friend, you're going to have an anxious attachment style with a partner. We're going to talk about why you attract certain people. And I promise you, it's not because you have a bad picker. It's not because you have bad luck or, that it's a curse. There is a pattern. And again, once you see it, you can't unsee it. We're going to spend a whole episode talking about the nervous system. Because you cannot think your way out of trauma. You cannot think your way into healing. Your nervous system has to feel safe because it holds everything. And until we address the body, the mind will just keep spinning. That's why it's called a mind-body connection. And then we're going to move into some tools like emotional regulation, boundaries, and why willpower alone will never be enough to get you where you need to be. Okay, there's always a reason why someone sets a New Year's resolution and falls short. It's not because you're not worthy. It's not because you're not worthy of it. There's a reason. There's a pattern. Okay? We're going to talk about toxic cycles and how to heal those at the root. And we're going to talk about also identity manifestation. So many people have manifestation kind of confused. Okay? Because what I'm here to tell you is that real transformation is not just about stopping the old pattern. It's about stepping fully into who you are healing to become. Okay? This type of work is not changing who you are. It's healing those deeper wounds from childhood so that you can reconnect with your inner child. I'm helping and facilitating the healing to allow you to heal those parts so that you can step into the person that you were always meant to be before the world told you that you couldn't, you shouldn't, or you're not worthy of it. Okay? And then once a month, instead of a teaching episode, I will be doing a guided meditation. So for those, please make sure that you are not driving or operating heavy machinery. If you really want to listen to it, make sure you're listening to it when you can put some earbuds in without distractions and just sit. Okay? I do these meditations because I believe that healing is just not intellectual. It's just not intellectual. It lives in the body. And I want to give you a space once a month to really experience that shift, not just understand it. Okay? And then if you subscribe to my page, to my podcast, you actually get an additional meditation. So you get 2 meditations if you subscribe. So before we close out today, I just want to give you something to really sit with. I'm going to read through some questions, and they're not meant to be answered quickly. Okay? Let whatever come up, come up. There's no wrong answers here, only honest ones. And then bring those questions back next week. Okay? So the first question I want you to sit with is, when you think about your life right now, the patterns, the relationships, the way you show up, what is the one thing that you are ready to change? Not the one that you think you should change, but the one that you are actually ready to face. I'll read that again. When you think about your life right now, the patterns, the relationships, the way you show up, what is the one thing that you are most ready to change? Not what you think you should change, but one you're ready to actually face. Okay? Question number 2 is to think back to the home that you grew up in. What was the unspoken rule about emotions in the house? Were they welcomed? Were you told to hide them? We don't talk about it? Were they used against you? Tell me what's wrong, and then you say it, and then it's used against you. How do you see that rule showing up in your adult life today? So think back to the home you grew up in. What was the unspoken rule about emotions? Welcomed, hidden, used against you? And how has that affected your adult life and your relationships today? And then the last question is, if the version of you that existed before all the pain, before the conditioning, before the walls went up, if that version could see you right now, what would they say to you? So if the version of you that existed before the pain, before the conditioning, before the walls went up, they could see you right now, what would they say to you? All right, guys. Well, that is a wrap for today's episode. And before I conclude here, I just want to sit with you and reflect. I want you to check in with yourself. Was there anything that landed with you today? Maybe something stirred in your body. Maybe it really resonated with you, made you lean in. Maybe you had the light bulb go off and that aha moment. Because if you did, just sit with it. Because that is what I call awareness. We are unable to change, heal, fix anything that we are not in awareness of. So now you do have the awareness. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to just feel it and stay stuck? Or imagine the possibilities. What would it feel like to step into that and use that awareness as the beginning to your healing journey? So I just want you to reflect on that today. Okay? So a couple of reminders that I just want to give you before I let you go. The first one is to subscribe to my podcast. The link is below in the notes. And when you do subscribe, not just follow, but subscribe, you are given access to my private community that is exclusive for my podcast subscribers. I have 3 different types and tiers of my subscription, depending on the level of support and access that you are needing and requiring. My entry level is going to be my supporter level, and that's going to be $9.99 a month. The next level up is going to be my deeper healing level. That's going to be $19.99 a month. And then my top tier is my inner circle level, and that is going to be $29.99 a month. Okay, so check those out, see if they're, what's going to work best for you, and subscribe so that you don't miss any content and extra content at that. The other thing I want to remind you of is if you've ever sat back and just wondered where Coach Christian gets all of this information that I coach or educate to, it's just not my education. It's just not my lived experience, but it's my full story. The rawness, the vulnerability, the honesty, and I model behavior for my clients. And so I lead from example to show that healing is possible. So my memoir is called Ashes to Awakening, From Trauma to Transformation, How My Story Became My Purpose. You can find that on Amazon. The link is below in the show notes as well. You can obtain that on Kindle Limited, paperback, and hardcover. And there's a lot of things in that story that I did not really want to share, but I did because I knew that there was somebody out there that needed to hear my story. It's about my childhood experiences, the programming, the trauma, all the things that I took into my adult life and how that affected my relationships in my adult life. Then I talk pretty in depth about my near-death experience that I had and how that was an awakening to my healing journey and what got me to sit here in this chair in front of you so that you can hear me and know that healing is possible. Okay, so check it out. If you're someone that resonates with people, with their story, maybe you need to hear that to not feel alone, to take a step forward. Check it out. Again, the link is in the show notes below. Okay? So, are you ready? Are you ready to go all in? Are you done feeling the way that you're feeling? Are you tired of feeling stuck? Then I invite you. Again, applications are open to apply for my Elite Emotional Freedom one-on-one platinum coaching program. And it is the most powerful one-on-one container that's out there. Okay? I work with a small number of clients, and the reason for that is so that I can be present and attentive. Okay? So again, the link to apply for that is also in the show notes below. So until next time, keep rising from the ashes. I believe in you. See you next time.